I hope everyone is holding up okay considering what's going on in the world. It's rather scary times for us all. Um, but, you know, this could be a time for us all to come together as a community and as the world gets closer, we can all help each other work out all the issues of the world. And Two Wise Monkeys and 30-Foot Drop are here to try and help with that. So if you are sitting at home or you know anyone that is in isolation, then now's a good time to start educating yourself and educating others on the things that we need to share. Okay, so we're going to be looking today at why to employ people with an impairment, which is such an important message that we feel definitely needs to get out there. There needs to be more people with impairment and disability employed in businesses all throughout Australia and around the world. So, in saying that, let's get started. 30-Foot Drop acknowledges the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognises their continuing connection to land, waters and the community. We pay our respects to the Indigenous people, their cultures and beliefs, to elders both past and present. 30-Foot Drop funding. 30-Foot Drop would like to acknowledge the Department of Communities Disability Services for funding this and many other initiatives. Without their support, such projects such as Two Wise Monkeys would never see the light of day, and we would be much more poorer for it as a community. This workshop is part of a Realities and Advantages Access and Inclusion grant awarded to 30-Foot Drop as part of the Information Linkages and Capacity Building grants for 2018 and 2019. Housekeeping. Unfortunately, we don't have all of the resources to have every platform live streaming. So if you do have any questions for me or for Ben or any of the team at 30-Foot Drop, Two Wise Monkeys, head to the website under this video, which is www.30footdrop.com.au/live. Hit the live box and you'll see a little white chat box at the bottom of the video, and you can type away any messages that you might have for us today. We'll be covering a lot of information in a short period of time, so we recommend that attendees, if possible, take precautions to minimise any distractions. So get a pen and paper, grab a coffee, and start writing things down as you go along. Okay, make sure as well, please, if you talk about 30-Foot Drop in any way and you share our posts, or you think anyone might be out there that is needing to see these, please tag us in it, share it, get the message out there. And if you do have anyone that's interested, let them know about all the up and coming webinars as well. We're running them till June. So the platforms we have these on are Facebook, Instagram and YouTube. So feel free to share those, go and check them out on other platforms, send them to other people. We feel that the messages would just be so important for the whole community and the whole world. So we'll be recording the session and posting it to the 30-Foot Drop webpage and the other platforms. So if you feel like you missed out on some of the information, you can head back over and rewatch it to write down anything else that you may have missed along the way. And also at the end of the webinar, we'd love it if you guys could fill out the little survey that we've got there. It's just under the video that I'm showing now. Head over to the website and then there's the survey. So hit tapping in part 1 and fill out the survey for us. That would be really awesome. Okay, now that we've done the housekeeping and acknowledgement of country, I will introduce myself. I'm Lisa and I am Hear No Evil. I'm one of the Two Wise Monkeys that help run these webinars and courses. We also run these courses for businesses and public events. So if you're interested in that, come and get hold of 30 Foot Drop, and we can come to you and run an access and inclusion workshop for you. But at the moment it's online, which is probably a good thing in this present time. So I'm Lisa, and I am Hear No Evil. Just by looking at me, you probably can't tell what I may suffer from. Through me, you will realise that, impairment or not, you will hear no evil about impairment. My story is definitely a more hidden one. At the age of 8, I was diagnosed with mild dyslexia. Teachers used to hit me on the head, read out my low marks, and make me feel completely dumb and unworthy in front of all my classmates. But despite these challenges growing up, I felt more determined and more stubborn to prove all these people wrong. So I went out there, I tried my best. I have multiple diplomas in the arts field, one in counselling, and at present have my own photography business. But if you're dyslexic yourself, or you know anyone that could be, or have a child that is, don't let them give up that hope, because it's not the end of the world if you're not the most amazing speller or the most amazing mathematician. You know, you've just got to find that passion, and luckily I found that passion. I wasn't young when I found it, but when I was about 13 I found out that, hey, I'm not too bad at drawing or painting. So I followed that dream, and I've done really well with it in my life, and it's taken me all around the world, and I've really enjoyed doing it, and I still love doing it. So help your friend, daughter, son, husband, wife find their passion, and to go with that passion, because that'll take them places in life, and it'll make you feel better once you find that passion. I definitely felt better once I found out that, hey, I was okay at art, and maybe better at art than some other people that might be amazing at maths or spelling. So we're all different, and we all deserve that chance to do well in life. Right, okay, the other wise monkey is the director Ben, and he takes the webinars as well. He is See No Evil, but he will be on tonight, and I will let him share his story with you then. It's a really interesting story, and he is the reason why we're all here today, trying to get this message out there. But wait, you say, isn't there supposed to be 3 wise monkeys? Who is the third monkey? I'll let you guys take a little guess. Yes, you guessed it, it's you. The aim of today's webinar is to turn you into a wise monkey. You'll begin on a journey of realising that, impairment or not, we are all human and deserve to be treated and acknowledged with the same respect as anyone else. Such an important message. We all deserve to be treated exactly the same, no matter what impairment or disability we have, or any other difference for that matter. Okay, outline and method. So how are we going to get you started on the path of the wise monkey? Well, there is a lot to learn about people with impairment and the opportunities they represent as employees. First up, we'll examine and bust some common myths around employing someone with an impairment. After a little mythbuster session, we'll get down to the brass tacks and look at the subsidies available when employing someone with a disability or impairment, and how to access them. The final subject we'll be talking about will be workplace modifications and how to access the funding for these. To finish off, we'll do an open forum session where you guys can ask any questions, but feel free to ask any along the way. And remember, none are off limits. You can ask anything you like. What will our teaching method be? The answer is fun, open and honest discussion. If we can all be open with each other on our issues and concerns, then it's only going to help make the world a better place, because we can't help other people or change things if we don't be honest and open. So you'll notice that there's very little written content on the slides, and that is because we're all here to interact with each other and hopefully use the chat box. But also for me, someone with dyslexia, or maybe a visual impairment or hearing impairment, it makes it easy for us to follow the slides. Everything's clear, there's not too much writing on there where you're trying to keep up with the writing and there's big words that you might not understand. It's just a simple, easy webinar to follow, and this makes it hopeful that pretty much everyone can watch it and learn from it. Okay, so next we'll talk about the terminology and review that we like to use, because lots of people get these things mixed up and think it's often the same thing, whereas it's not. So that is disability versus impairment. So to reduce confusion and ensure understanding, we want to review this terminology and how we'll be using it in the session. First up is the difference between disability and impairment. An impairment is an injury, illness, or congenital condition that causes or is likely to cause a loss or difference of physiological or psychological function. In short, an impairment is your medical diagnosis. So my impairment is that I have mild dyslexia. A disability, on the other hand, is the loss or limitation of opportunities to take part in society on an equal level with others due to social and environmental barriers. It is, as the word implies, something that makes you unable to access or participate in something. So if there was some information on a website or something in order for me to participate, and the wording was just too much, too complicated, then I possibly couldn't participate. So it's just something to think about, to make sure that your websites are clear, your information is clear, because people with disability, impairment, and even people without those things could struggle with getting the information they need to use your service or be part of something. So an example of my impairment would be, like I said, too much wording and complex information. Stylized script can make it hard for people with dyslexia, which then makes it hard for them to get the right information they need to use your service. This is especially important information to remember because some people's impairments are hidden. So, yeah, people's impairments can be hidden. And if it's hidden, then no, they're not going to be able to use your service. So as long as you're aware of it and you can make everything as clear as possible, you can look on our resource library as to looking at some of the checklist things that you need to do to help people be able to use your service, to make it more inclusive and more friendly for people with disability impairment. All the information is available on our website. So hopefully that part of it makes sense to everyone. Next, we'll be talking about the difference between access and inclusion. Access refers to the removal or reduction of barriers, physical and attitudinal, to participate in activities and functions of a community. At its core, access focuses a lot on the physical world around us and can be easily assessed with a checklist. So you can go over to our website and have a look at that checklist. You can do a checklist yourself. You know, can people get into my shop front? Does it need a ramp instead of a step for people with wheelchairs or mobility impairments? At its core, access focuses, on the physical world around us. So inclusion is more of a physiological state of being and is the process hereby every person, irrespective of their age, disability, gender, religion, sexual preference or nationality, who wishes to, can participate fully in all aspects of an activity or service in the same way every other member can in the community. So, now that we have cleared this up, if you have any questions, please send them over to me. Let's begin on the core parts of this webinar today, which are the myths versus reality. Employing people with an impairment. Okay, now let's talk about 7 myths and realities that exist in today's society around employing someone with an impairment or disability. Looking at these myths and realities that exist when employing a person with an impairment, these myths aren't just random statements that have been plucked out of the air. They are 7 reoccurring reasons for not employing people with an impairment from studies all over the world. So they're not just made up stats and studies, they're actually studies that have been done and reasons why employers aren't employing employees, because they have false realizations. So, myth 1 is people with impairment need expensive modifications in order to be a productive employee. Not true. Not everyone needs these impairments. Impairments are like people. Every single one of us is unique, and not everyone with an impairment needs special modifications. My advice is to ask the potential employee and find out what they do and don't need to come and work in your business. Ben readily admits that getting adaptations for impairments are expensive. Wheelchairs can cost from $20,000 upwards, and having a car modified for someone in a wheelchair can cost $50,000 upwards. Okay, that's a lot of money, but the thing is, most of the time someone with this impairment or disability will already have these things to get on with their day-to-day life. So you're not going to need to fork out the money for a wheelchair or a car or something else they need to move around or something else they need to be able to see or hear. These people have already got these things, so why not employ them? If an employee with an impairment does need a modification, then there are easy ways to work around it that are less expensive. There's also a good chance that it isn't the first time they've been asked about this hurdle, and they will know how best to work around it. And all you need to do is ask. Finally, if the required modification is expensive, then there is funding available, which is amazing. And we'll cover that later on in the session. So it just shows that people with an impairment do not necessarily need adaptations to work in your workplace. And the adaptations and help with the modifications can be accessed through a place called Job Access. Okay, next up, myth 2. People with impairment are frequently absent from work. Okay, this couldn't be further from the truth. According to the Disability Investment Group, The Way Forward, a new disability policy framework for Australia 2009, stated that 86% have the same or superior attendance as any other employee or worker. Studies also show that they also have a reduced turnover rate, which means less onboarding costs for you and your business, meaning you will actually be saving money. Who would have thought? Why is this the case? Well, studies show people who have a disability or impairment have an unemployment rate which is double of the rest of society. That's just crazy. So for people with a disability or impairment, it takes them twice as many job applications to get a job. One of Ben's friends actually applied for 183 jobs before landing a job. Imagine that. It'd be hard not to give up. And obviously she didn't, because after 183 job applications, she got a job. But, you know, in this day and age, we need to be better than that. We need to employ these people and not, you know, a lot of people would give up after that many times. But if we all come together and work as a community and make our business and service inclusive, that means employing people with a disability impairment. So due to the difficulty in getting employment, people with a disability and impairment view the job as a success rather than a privilege or a right. They will go the extra mile to keep that job, and I'm not surprised. So, myth 3. People with impairment are only suited to unskilled work. Once again, massively untrue. There is such a range of skills, talents and abilities which people with disability and impairment can do. The Australian Bureau of Statistics reported that in 2012, 19.9% of working age people worked as professionals, 14.1% worked as clerical and administrative workers, 15.2 worked as technicians and trades, 11.6 ran their own business, and 33.7 worked from home. So that is awesome numbers, and look, they're all working. It's just up to us to give them more of a chance. Okay, myth 4. My workers' compensation premiums and safety incident rates will go up. Let's have a think about that one. Not true. Employing someone with an impairment does not affect your premiums. Insurance underwriters look at the incident history of the workplace and the workers' compensation, not the number of people with impairments employed there, which is very interesting and good to know. Further to that, studies have shown that employees with an impairment are 6 times less likely to have a WHS incident and are less likely to lodge a workers' compensation claim, which will lower your business insurance. That's because they really want to be at that workplace working, and they'll do anything to keep the job, which means they will follow the safety precautions and advice of others. So this goes into that a bit more deeply. It is thought that the reason for this can be attributed to the people with impairment or disability finding out how hard it is to get a job. If you find it hard to get employment, you're not going to risk that employment by breaking the rules and cutting corners. You're going to do the right thing because you don't want to apply for 183 jobs again. I certainly wouldn't want to do that again if I'd done it before. Okay. Myth 5. People with impairment are less productive. Not true. Studies have shown that when matched with a job that is within the people's ability, they are just as productive as other employees. Coupled with the reduced absenteeism, reduced WHS and work compensation, and increased retention makes sense. And people whose productivity is reduced as a result of their impairment, they may like to consider the supported wage system. So with the supported wage system, eligible people with an impairment can access a reliable process of productivity-based wage assessment to determine fair pay for fair work. We'll be covering this later in the session. Myth 6. Workers with an impairment will not fit into my workplace. So sad that people think that. In most cases, co-workers' acceptance comes from awareness and observing that workers are just as confident and efficient as any other workers, regardless of their impairment. People with impairment make up to 20% of the Australian population, meaning that there is a very high chance that they have a friend or a relative that might have a disability, so hopefully that will make them understand more. Studies have shown that the employee initiatives in hiring people with impairment can be positive and give bottom line results for the whole team, increasing your staff morale and community recognition as good corporate citizens, and the inclusion of all workers, and proving that all workers are just like everybody else and they just need to be given that chance. Myth 7. If they don't work out, I cannot discipline or fire them. Not true. Employing a person with a disability or impairment is just the same as employing any other worker. You must establish clear performance expectations from the start, and if they are unable or unwilling to do the job, then you can take further action as normal. There are no special laws to prevent you from disciplining or terminating an employee who is unable or unwilling to do the job. So hopefully that all made sense about the myths. So if you have any questions, please head over to the chat box and ask away. Let's move on to the subsidies now. What subsidies are available if you are wanting to employ someone with a disability or impairment? When employing a person with impairment, there are various opportunities depending on the job seeker's profile and role hours. These are designed to offset training and other costs during the initial period of employment. This is an amazing incentive for employers. The subsidies can be released as a lump sum or a flexible payment contingent on the award rate being paid, minimum hours being worked as agreed, the employee needs to be registered with a disability employment service, which we will go into deeper in a later session, webinar part 2. But now we will go over some of the subsidies which are available to you as an employee. These are basic outlines and some extra criteria may apply. Okay, the first one is wage subsidy. This is $1,500. The requirements are that the employment needs to be registered with a disability employment service, which is DES provider for short. The candidate will need to average a minimum of 8 hours over 13 weeks, with an intention of going to 26 weeks, and the payment is still made if the job ends at 13 weeks. As well, it doesn't mean they have to do 8 hours a week. You could have the person working 8 hours one week, 16 the next week, and maybe none the week next week. It just, as long as at the end of the time the person has worked 13 weeks in total. So you can jumble it up and mix it up and do certain hours one week and not the next week. And you can work around that person if they are needing time off on certain days. You can say, okay, well, you can come in on Friday instead of Wednesday, and it's very flexible for the people coming in to work with you. So it's great. Okay. So Wage Start is the second subsidy. This is $6,000. The requirements are, once again, that the person is registered with a DES provider. The person is under 50 at the time of employment and has been a long time unemployed, which is people whose duration of active job searching has been 52 weeks or more, and they will need to receive an average of 15 hours per week over a 26-week duration. So once again, you can chop and change the hours. It doesn't have to be 15 per week. You could do 31 week and none the next, just as long as it works out to a minimum of 26 weeks duration. Okay, the next one is the Restart subsidy. So now we're starting to get into bigger numbers. So this is $10,000. The requirements are, again, the person is registered with a DES provider, are 50 and over, be unemployed for 52 weeks once again or longer. So 52 weeks or longer unemployed. They will need to receive an average of 20 hours per week at your business over a 26-week period. Once again, you can chop and change the hours in the week. So with those hours needing to be worked, people can do 8 hours one week and 16 the next, as long as it amounts to 20 hours in a 6-month period. So hopefully that makes sense on what you can do with those hours. Or you can just keep it at 20 hours per week. It's up to you and your employee. Next is the supported wage system. This particular subsidy is complicated, but in short it revolves around the concept of fair pay for fair work. Allow candidates who cannot perform all job requirements to receive a productivity-based wage and not disadvantage the employer financially. An assessment determines the gap between the actual required or standard performance due to the worker's health condition or disability, and the percentage of an hourly rate is payable. For example, if it's determined someone is providing 70% of the job requirement, then the relevant award is applicable, but only to 70%. So hopefully that one makes sense to people. But it's a good incentive, and it helps employers realise that, you're not having to pay all this money when maybe they haven't quite reached that 100% 100% of their working methods. They haven't quite got there. They only got to 70%. Then it means you can pay them 70%. So how can these employers access these subsidies? Contact your local disability employment service to get started today. We'll be covering the disability employment services in our next webinar, which is webinar 2, and that starts tomorrow. What is Job Access? Job Access is the national hub for workplace and employment information for people with disability and impairment. They are service providers for these people. Job Access is funded by the Employment Assistance Fund. They offer financial assistance for workplace modifications that assist people with a disability in gaining meaningful employment. So amazing. Amazing that these things are out there for people. It's just a matter of people realising that they are out there. Workplace modifications can be used for the cost of making adjustments to the physical workplace. They could be used for modifications to work vehicles or specialist equipment. They could be used for information and communication devices. They can be used for Auslan interpretive services or specialist services for employees with specific disorders or mental health conditions. Use them for the whole team in your workplace for disability awareness training. So you could have someone come in and do a deaf awareness training for your whole workplace, so that when the person comes in, or even include the person that's deaf, everyone can communicate with that person, which is very important and very inclusive. And also mental health and awareness training, mental health and first aid training, should I say. You can get all of that funded just to make your workplace a better workplace to come to and be inclusive for people with disability impairment. Let's move on to the application process. Most disability employment services will facilitate and arrange assessments that are required. They know what they're doing and are brilliant, but you can also do it yourself. First of all, submit your application to Job Access. Job Access will then revise and go over the application and see whether an assessment is required. If asking for something big, they will come in and assess the workplace for this requirement. If no assessment is required, then the workplace purchases and goods and services will be reimbursed by Job Access. If a modification is required, they will arrange a specialist to come in and confirm the modification, and Job Access will then sort it out from there. While they're there, if you've got any other questions about making your business accessible for someone with a disability or impairment, you can get that specialist to go over all the things that you need to get looked at, so that you know it's 100% accessible for the person coming in to work at your place. And all of those purchases and modifications are reimbursed by Job Access. Okay, funding caps. Physical workplace adjustments and building modifications are capped at $30,000. Auslan Level 1 is capped at $6,000 for 12 months. Auslan Level 2 is uncapped. Auslan Level 3 is $855. So interpreters come in and help co-workers receive Auslan Certificate 2 to help them communicate with someone that has who is deaf or has an hearing impairment, who use Auslan as a main form of communication. So the staff will be learning Auslan, which would be amazing. It's $855 you didn't have to pay for. Okay, Disability awareness training is capped at $1,500 per employee with a disability. Huge money. And there for each employee with a disability over a 12-month period. So after 12 months, you can get it again. So it's interesting what is available out there, and if you didn't know about these subsidies or these myths that we've gone over today, I hope that it has made you see things a bit more clearly in employing someone with a disability or impairment. You know, you don't have to do it alone, you don't have to figure it all out alone, and that shouldn't put you off why you're not employing someone. The support is there, and we want you to go and get the support so that you can go and employ someone with a disability or an impairment, because these people want to work, they want to, they've got goals as well, and they deserve to have that opportunity. They deserve to be included in your business. And what better way is for you to get behind them and find out who's available. Go out and talk to the disability service providers and ask them, do you have someone for this position? Do you have someone for this position? There's so many people out there waiting. I mean, look, that lady applied for 183 jobs. And how long would she have been waiting for that job to come up? So make those jobs available to these people. We all want to support our own families. We all want to reach our goals, like I said before, and that is by working. If you want to know more details, we've definitely got lots more information coming on the next lot of webinars. Tomorrow we'll be going over the more about job access and disability employment services. Hopefully I've got that right. Anyway, join us for the next lot of webinars this week, all done online. So if you're stuck at home, invite your friends. Let's get educated while we're all stuck at home and all feeling a bit miserable and sorry for ourselves. Okay, take care everyone, keep well, and load up on the vitamin C. I will see you tomorrow morning. See you later, guys. Oh, no, actually, sorry, I forgot. Any questions, can you please head over to the chat box. If you have to go, feel free to go, but please go and fill out the little survey that's under the video. And if you have any questions, please jump into the question box now. I'm just going to turn it off for 5 minutes. Sorry, I forgot to mention it. For 5 minutes, then I'll jump back on. And if there's no questions, I'll let you go. But if you have to go, that's fine. I will see you back in a couple of minutes to answer any questions. Stay safe and well. See you soon. Okay, welcome back. Let's see if I've got any questions. There doesn't seem to be any questions, but that is fine. If you have any questions that you want to ask or that you think of along the way, please head over to our website and click on the chat box. If you wanted to look at any more resources or go over any more information, it's all available in our resource library. But for now, we want you to stay safe and well, and join us for the next one tomorrow, because they're all very interesting and we can all definitely be educated in all of this stuff. We hope you enjoyed today. I will see you tomorrow morning. Thanks for joining me. Stay well. Bye.